Hey guys, this is Saki here, coming at you with another guide. Today we'll be talking about worker empire, starting with what it is, all the way to how to set it up properly. Now, why am I making this guide, even though there's so many out there already? The reason why I want to make a video and a guide about this is to clarify some information. A lot of guys out there will specifically tell you, oh, go get this node, you'll make 10 billion silver a day, or whatever they clickbait you with. Here I want to give you the resources and teach you how to decide for yourself what is good and what is not, rather than blindly following what people recommend. Now, those guys do have merits, but at the same time, you shouldn't fully blindly follow them. You should always fact check whether it's my guides or it's someone else's guides, whether it's a worker empire guide, whether it's a gear guide, doesn't matter what it is. You should always be fact-checking with other sources, not just blindly following one person. And this could be, have several reasons, like some of the ones I listed here are, maybe some people have ulterior motives. They want to push you a certain way rather than teaching you fully how to utilize the system. Or, whatever works for them may not work for you because you both are in different situations. For example, if a person who writes a guide about gear and he's a full AP wizard, it wouldn't really make sense for you to follow that guide if you're trying to build a, let's say for example, full DR warrior or something along those lines, because his gear wouldn't match yours. Now, the first question what most people would ask is when should I start my worker empire? And the simple answer is start as soon as possible. Right? The sooner you start this, the more passive income you'll have. And what passive income is just money passively generating without you having to put in extra work or extra effort. Other than setting up the worker empire in this case. What you want to do is reach that 300 CP mark as soon as you can. Whether that's through doing Calpheon dailies, do questing, cooking, whatever you need to do to 300. The first top cap is at 255, that's when you'll notice your CP gain will drastically slow down and the next wall that you'll hit is around 300 CP. And then I believe the third one will be at 355, I believe? Something along those lines, but right now I'm currently at roughly like 318 CP. I'm making approximately 60 mil from the resources that my workers are pulling each day into my banks. Now, before we start with the empire itself, we need to understand how workers function. So, you can see here, there's a link down the bottom for the written guide, so feel free to click that and follow along. Starting with, the workers itself, number one you'll see is what the workers are. There are three types of workers. There's artists, or goblins, humans, and giants. Goblin being the fastest worker, but they have the lowest stamina pool, while humans are in between the giants and the goblin, and giants have very large stamina pool while working very slow. All three workers will pull the same amount of resources. The only thing that differs between them is their stamina pool and how fast they can complete a task. So the giants will obviously have the longest standing stamina because they're big, they're bulky, they're strong. But at the same time, to compensate for that, they are very slow at doing whatever they do, while goblins are small and speedy. They can finish a task much faster than a giant can, but they run out of stamina much quicker. Both of them will pull, let's say for example, the same amount of resources. If they pull, like a giant brings home 10 iron ore every cycle, the goblin will bring back home the same amount. It's just the goblin will work faster, while the giant being able to work longer. And then there's also multiple tiers of the workers. So artisan being the highest, professional being the yellow tier is the second highest, and then it goes down from there, and we'll go through that in a bit. The second stat is going to be the work speed. The work speed is how fast a worker works, and we'll go more detail on all of these stats below. The third will be moving speed, or movement speed, or whatever you want to call it, is how fast the worker can travel from point A to point B. So let's say if you go from Calpheon to a certain node, that stat will determine how fast your worker can travel. Luck, as of now, there hasn't been any concrete proof, but it seems that luck has no effect on the node the worker empire whatsoever. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. This is what I've led to believe in all the tests that I've seen from reputable people. This could change in the future. This could not. We don't really know. If you want to throw on your tinfoil hat, luck is there, is what that's there for. But from as far as I know, it has no effect on what you bring in terms of materials. As for stamina, as I stated before, is how long your worker can work. Each cycle will consume 1 stamina, so for example, this artisan human workers has 23 stamina. This means it can go for 23 cycles before it runs out of energy and stops working. And then finally, the skills. The skills is every worker has 7 skills that it can potentially roll, and reaching level 30, you can re-roll any of the skills as it continues to level up afterwards. I'll go more in details about that in a little bit. So first of all, the race and the tier. As I mentioned before, there are 3 races: Goblin, Giants, and Humans, with the exception of the Camosil, which don't have 2, which is Papus and Fetus. Papus being the equivalent of a Goblin, it's very speedy, low stamina worker, and Fetus is a human equivalent, which is an in-between hybrid between a Goblin and a Giant. But they do have higher overall stats as compared to its respective counterparts. There are 5 tiers total, naive being the lowest rank, being white or gray. The green tier, which doesn't have a name, is just called human worker or goblin worker or whatever, giant worker and whatnot. Skilled is the next tier up, is blue. Professional is artisan. Professional is yellow and artisan is orange. Artisan being obviously the best because it's the highest potential tier. And ideally, you want to get all artisan workers at the end game. When you're starting off, it's okay to get, green or blue tiers, but eventually you want to cycle those out for artisans and professional. And eventually cycle those professional out for just purely artisan. It's going to be a very long road and very energy intensive, so try to get your energy up also. It will help you a lot when you're re-rolling workers and such. Now, going to the second stat, the work speed. This is one of the more important stats when you're looking at a worker. So, the work speed is going to determine how fast your workers can finish a task. So let's say, for example, this chicken meat node, the workload is 200. That means that your worker needs to finish 200 workloads worth of work in order to complete the task. So if this, for example, this giant worker has 25 work speed, it means that it's going to take him 8 cycles. So it's 25 times 4, which is a little bit over 200. That's how long it will take. It's going to take 1 hour and 27 minutes. That means it's 8 cycles of the task in order to complete 1 cycle of the overall task. And this can reduce down as you go up and up in terms of tiers and change out the workers. For example, a artisan human worker can complete this in 2 cycles as compared to 8, which is 25% of the original, or in this example's picture. Since it has 100 work speed, it can complete in 2 cycles, and so it drastically reduces the time. Do note that even though you have 100, let's say for example a goblin worker with 150 work speed, it's still going to take the worker 2 cycles. So there's no difference between a 100 work speed versus a 150 work speed when it comes to a node that requires 200 workload, because it requires 2 separate cycles and it doesn't slowly accumulate, just cycle by cycle. So as long as the cycle adds up to over 200 is when the worker is complete. And the text explanation is probably a bit more, in-depth. You want to go ahead and read that. Just pause the video or just click on the link below and just quickly read that. That will make a little bit more sense because I did include a bit of math in there. And then the third, speed is the movement speed, just simply how fast a worker can travel. It's very straightforward. There's not much to explain about it. Like I said before, the fourth stat's luck. It's very tinfoil. Right now, I don't think it have any effects, but look at other sources, compare my guide with other guide to see what they say about it. Luck is supposed to increase the rare drops from the nodes, but I haven't seen any evidence of this, so I can't say with certainty whether it does or does not affect the yield. Fifth is just simply stamina, and stamina is something important to look at because it's very important to determine how long your worker can work. because everybody needs to sleep. I sleep 6 hours a day. People may sleep 10 hours a day. So it differs from person to person, and you need to figure out how long you going to be AFK for, whether it's work or sleep. Then you do the calculations out and see how long your worker can work. Because a fast goblin worker can complete a task in 10 minutes, but it only has 10 stamina, so it means it's gonna finish all 10 tasks or all 10 cycles in less than 2 hours, as compared to a giant that works for 20 minutes, which is double the time, but it has triple the stamina. So it can do more tasks, but for longer periods of time. So in the NSA, for example, if I sleep for 6 hours, for example, the goblin will finish the 10 tasks, and then it just stays idle for the rest of the time that I'm sleeping. And I only have 10 cycles worth of materials versus the worker, or the giant worker, that would have completed 18 tasks over that 6 hour period. It will still be working by the time I woke up, but I have 8 more cycles worth of materials as compared to the goblin. So for that, you just need to do calculations for yourself, because everybody is in a different state. Some people have work, some people are able to stay around the computer all day in order to feed their workers. It just determines whatever worker you use is based on how far or how long you can AFK. And then lastly, the 6th stat is all the skills that your workers can learn. Every 5 levels, your workers are able to learn 1 skill, and it keeps progressing on all the way to level 30. And every 10 levels, your workers, if it's under artisan, your workers able to promote to the higher tier, or a chance to promote to a higher tier. And once you reach level 30, obviously you can't level any higher, it will max out. But what you can do, if your workers at artisan, or any level, it's matter, but it's more important at artisan, you can re-roll a existing skill for a different skill. So that's very important when you're trying to get very specific skills for a very specific task on that certain worker. A list of useful skills, are packing skills, which is timber, ore, mushroom packing, all that stuff. Farm knowledge is really good too, because it gives +5 work speed to all nodes. Legwork or craftsmanships are very good to get at early levels, because it will add additional stats to your base stat for that worker. Thrifty is good because it will return materials if you're making materials with them, like crates or armor and stuff like that. And mastery skill, just overall +2 work speed, period. Those are some of the more useful ones. Others can be useful, it just depends on what you're trying to do. And then it comes down to, like I said before, what worker should I pick? First, you need to determine how long you AFK for. That's the most important thing. Determining that alone, whether you're able to remote in every few hours to feed your workers, that might be more beneficial for you to use goblin workers as compared to someone who's going to be AFKing 10 to 16 hours a day. Giants may be better if you're AFKing for 4, 6, 8 hours. Humans are probably good. You gotta figure out what your work schedule, what your sleep schedule is like, and figure out from there. The second thing you should take into consideration is how many cycles can a certain worker complete the task. And I usually use the artisan base in order to decide this and what kind of works I want. I listed out all the efficiency breakpoints down below. If you have workers of 500 workload, you ideally want a 225 plus work speed goblin to complete it with the maximum optimization. But obviously, the maximum optimization for me is not the same for you. Just use this as a guideline in order to choose what kind of workers that's ideal for you. Like I said before, most important thing is your worker stamina and being able to work the entirety of the time that you're AFK. And then lastly, what skill your workers have. This is more important when you're trying to reach certain thresholds, such like 150 work speed in order to hit that 150 threshold, or if you're looking for packing, if you're doing crate and stuff like that. Those are the 3 most important things to consider. But for the general population, humans are the middle ground for the most part, and it's ideally the preferred for most people. If you're like me that are able to sit on a computer a lot and able to feed the workers remotely when I'm at work or when I'm sleeping, I just use my phone to remote and feed my workers. So if that's available to you, then goblins may be better. Or if you don't have access to that, you're working 12, 14 hours a day, giants may be better for you. It's just purely up to your schedule. And next up, before even moving on to the node itself, we need to understand what region modifier is. So every node has a base work speed, and usually is around 100, is the flat 100 for most nodes, not all but most. What a region modifier would do is if too many people are investing into the same node, it will decrease the modifiers. So the resources available in that area goes down, so it will take longer for your workers to complete the task. So let's say, for example, I pick a node that nobody have workers on. So it has 100% resource, so that means there's no region modifier. The region modifier is 0%, so it only requires me 100 work speed to finish this task in one cycle. Versus if I pick a node that everybody is putting their workers on, it has 0 resources left because everybody's draining it out. It has a 100% region modifier. So using this formula here, you can see that having that region modifier really affects how your worker function and how fast they complete the task. And this is why blindly listening to a streamer or a YouTuber or a guide to get certain nodes is not good, because everybody will be doing the same thing. If everybody is doing the same thing, it just makes it harder on everybody. It's just a game of switching it around and figuring out what to do as compared to other people. You don't want to blindly follow people, what they're doing. And this is especially true in this case, where you get penalized for having workers on the same nodes as everybody else. Sometimes it's worth it because the nodes have high yields, but it's not always the case. You just gotta do your own research and figure that out. Now we're moving on to what node should I invest to. And a lot of people are here specifically for this, but unfortunately this is probably the least important part of this guide. Now, I have provided a Google spreadsheet link in the written version of the guide, so go ahead and just visit that and pull that up and refer to what kind of nodes I have invested in. This spreadsheet is based off of Balzor's spreadsheet. He is an amazing person that I've been playing for a very long period of time, and he does a lot of data for BDO, and his data are considered as one of the most reputable data out there. So I would use this as a base guideline of what you want to do. And this specifically for me, I kind of edited and formatted it so it's a little bit cleaner as compared to his, so it's a little simpler for people to read. But only use this as a baseline. Don't copy it, because what works for me is probably not going to work 100% for you. Some might be good, some might be not. And the biggest thing to look for when you're deciding what node's good for you is you gotta decide what kind of life skill you're trying to do. If you're cooking, for example, you want to get all the cooking nodes, such as all the cereal nodes, the chicken, egg nodes, and stuff like that. Versus, if you're not gonna do trading or anything, maybe ore is not the best node to get. If you go just purely for money, you're getting materials just to sell in the marketplace, then sure, go follow the spreadsheet and look for the highest yielding node and just get workers on that and sell the material straight up. But for the most part, you will gain more money if you're able to use the materials yourself, utilize material yourself. This is especially true if you are processing timber and selling it at tier 3 plywood, or using that for trading. The more you can use material, the more money you make out of it. So prioritize things you're actually using versus the high money yielding nodes. Some things to consider while picking a node is how much does that node cost you in terms of CP. If the node, let's say, for example, nets you 600k a day, and it only costs you 2 CP, versus a node that costs you 2 mil a day that costs you 20 CP, which is a exaggerated number, but just for the sake of example, this is I'm just using these numbers. If you can see, I'm going to pull my calculator here. If you can see, 600k a day with 2 CP, so we're looking at 300k a day per CP. So each CP that I invest into that node is worth 300k a day, versus, let's say, the 20 CP node where it gives you 2 mil. Obviously 2 mil is much more than 600k, but you're looking at 2 mil divided by 20, you're only making 100k a day per CP, so it's not the best utilization of your CP. You're better off getting 10 more nodes that cost 2 CPs that's giving you 600k a day. as compared to one node that costs you 20 CP, that gives you 2 mil. Just work that out yourself. The spreadsheet is very helpful in that aspect because Balzor split it up and how much CP it will cost you to get that node. And this includes like the in-between nodes that doesn't benefit, so you need to link it just for the sake of linking it to the node. And then secondly, like I said before, materials is one of the more important decisions in order to decide whether it is worth getting the materials or not. Like if you're getting timber to process to do trading, then that's ideally you want to have your workers get all the timber nodes you can possibly get. Or if you do cooking, you want to prioritize the cooking nodes. You do alchemy, you prioritize the alchemy node. Figure out what nodes work for you. Some of the nodes you need may have lower yield, but provides greater benefits to you as a player. And this change from a person-to-person basis. So it's very difficult to tell you what nodes to get because I don't know what situations you are unless I specifically sit down with you and talk through everything on all the things you do, all your life skills, what you do actively and stuff like that, in order to decide what's best for you. And then the workload's the third thing you should consider is how fast your workers can finish a task. Now, if a worker can finish a task in 1 cycle versus something that's in 3 cycles, you're working 3 times faster with the 1 cycle, so you're pulling more money, which is great. And then obviously distance is a small factor. You want to, let's say for example, Portolari Farm, you want to send a worker just nearby from Velia and not all the way from Valencia. You want the shortest distance possible from the town to the node. And then coming up, near the end of the guide is what do you do with materials. Don't blindly follow people in terms of what nodes they'll get. Figure out what you want to do. Whatever materials you're getting should benefit you, and how it should benefit you is if it earns you more money or if it enables you to do certain things. Such as alchemy is a very limited life skill because it has a lot of bottlenecks. So if you're able to alleviate these bottlenecks using your work empires, it provides greater benefits to you as a player, even though the node itself has lower yields. Because you simply cannot buy the stuff on the market. And then if you're just purely going to get nodes just for the sake of selling items, for example, right? So I'll teach you how to read the market and what kind of nodes are able, or what kind of materials you can sell and what doesn't sell. So looking at this picture, I have a marketplace tab up for pistachios. And pistachios are a very good example because they are a very high yielding node. On the spreadsheet, you can see that it makes a lot of money every day. But the big problem with it is simply doesn't sell. No one buys pistachios. And the reason for that is just because it doesn't have much uses. It has some uses in certain foods, but since so many people invest into that node and trying to sell the high yield nodes, no one buys it. Not enough people buy it, so it'll never move. That means you have lost money. That node is making you 0 income because you can't sell the items. So if you look at here, and number 1, the box in this section right here, it will list you how many have sold within the start of the server, which is 1.3 mil. 1.3 million pistachios has been sold since the start of whatever it got released, and then currently there's 35,000 of them in the market. It's a good indicator to see how much has been bought versus how much are currently in the market, because it will allow you to kind of estimate how fast it will sell. An easier way to determine that is just simply by the time that's expiring. Every item you list on the market will have a 7-day timer before it expires, so if an item is closer to the 7th day, it means it will sell faster, versus something, for example, this one has 31 minutes left before it expires. It means that it's been on the market for more than 6 days, almost 7 days. So it just simply does not sell. So you want to find items that potentially can sell quickly because you're limited by 30 slots on your marketplace. You always have more materials to sell. You want to move them quickly. You don't want them to hold up your marketplace. Using both of these factors, it's really easy to determine whether the node is good or not, whether the item actually sells. And this is specifically if you want to sell the item straight up without using it. And then just a couple of closing remarks and tips in terms of the worker empire. You always want to fact check. Don't listen to me blindly. Don't listen to other people blindly. Check my sources. Check my facts with other people's sources. Don't follow people blindly on the internet. Don't believe everyone Don't listen to what people say. Just use that as a reference to do your own research and figure out things for yourself. Second was redo your empire every so often. Like I said, people switch around the empires a lot, so what may be good today may not be good tomorrow. So I usually redo mine every 2 to 3 months. You can do that for a little longer, you do it shorter, it's up to you, and how much effort you want to put into this. Make sure you use the right workers for your job. Obviously, don't use a slow worker on while you're AFK for short periods of time. Don't use a fast worker to have low stamina if you're AFK for long periods of time. Workers with the least stamina is going to be the weakest link, because when this fastest worker runs out of stamina, that's when it stops working. It slowly trickles down from there. So find that balance between the stamina and the work speed that works for you. Get the right workers as soon as possible. That means rolling, re-rolling, keep on rolling workers, get energy, roll, roll, roll. Don't ever have your energy cap out. Always keep rolling workers until you have the right workers. And the sooner you have the right workers, the more money you make, because it just accumulates over time. Every day it makes you X amount of money. Every CP will bring you X amount of money every day. And everything you do has a repercussion in this game. The longer you take to do something, you'll lose money from it. And the faster you do something, the opposite happens. You gain more money from it. Yeah, so that's basically the guide itself. If you have any questions, any remarks, if there's any wrong information here, just provide it in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to review and answer any questions you guys have. And like I said, please fact check. Don't just blindly listen to me, check with other people. I only provided you with the resources and the knowledge and how to determine what's best for you. I'm not blindly giving you advice that I know that won't work. I'm not trying to lead you astray. I'm just giving you the facts and the resources and the guides to figure out things for yourself. Because I feel that tricking you guys to do certain things, benefits me, but it doesn't benefit the community. So that's just how I feel about the whole thing. I don't want to, hide information or anything like that. So leave a comment down below if you like it or not. Subscribe if you want to see more guides. I'll be providing a few more in the near future. So thank you for watching and have an amazing day.